to Connecting ACO Community. I'm Derek Bermel, and I am Artistic Director of the American Composers Orchestra. And Connecting ACO Community is made possible by a lead gift from Augusta Gross and Leslie Samuels, two very good friends of ACO. Thanks so much to our staff, Lindsay Working, Aiden Feldkamp, Jay Jung, Stephanie Polonio, Jay House, and of course, Ed Yim and our friends at Christina Jensen PR. Thank you so much. Today, the ACO resembles a little bit the dynamics of my own house because pianist AARON DIEHL and composer WYNTON GUESS are joining us from New York and Lisbon, Portugal, that is, not Lisbon, Maine. And the title of the piece that we're going to be featuring is called Jaywalking. And to our audiences, please tell us where you're calling in from. Tell us what you're doing. And on StreamYard, this platform that we're using, you can use the chat button to talk to us, to ask questions, and to tell us what you're thinking about the premiere. You can wear headphones. That's generally the best way of tuning in. So welcome, AARON, and welcome, WYNTON.
Hi, Derek.
Thank you, Derek. Hi.
Great to see you both. And AARON, how are you? Where are you?
I am in Brooklyn, New York.
Sounds familiar. And WYNTON, you're in Lisbon?
Yes, I'm in Lisbon.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we're going to get to talk with both of you a little bit more about both your process and about the piece itself. But why don't we get right to the premiere, and we'll get right to Jaywalking, unless there's something that you want to else that you're burning to tell us.
Oh no, we can just go straight ahead with it.
Okay, so now we're going to hear pianist AARON DIEHL in the premiere of WYNTON GUESS's Jaywalking.
Yeah, Wynton.
All right. Well, we're getting some extra. We're getting some extra voice. We're getting some extra voices here somehow. I'm not sure where they're coming from, but maybe they're just the voices in my head that are being communicated to all of you through Connecting ACO Community. Bravo, Wynton, and bravo, Aaron. What a great pairing, because you're both so interested in so many different styles of music, which comes across here. And how do you, can I ask Aaron, just first of all, beautiful performance. And how do you know each other, and how did you collaborate on this work?
I first met Wynton probably when he was about, I don't know, it's 10, 11 years old. I just moved to New York City to studying the jazz program at Juilliard, and Wynton's father, Andre Guess, at the time was the VP of production of jazz at Jazz Lincoln Center. So through Wynton Marsalis, I met Andre and his son, and Andre would always talk about his son. He's playing piano and he's playing ragtime, learning the Maple Leaf Rag, and listening to James P. Johnson and Fatswell and all these great, Jelly Roll Morton, all these great pianists from the early 20th century. So some years passed, and I know they had moved. And later on, Andre told me that Wynton was studying to be a composer. I was like, really? It's amazing. So I hadn't really heard much of what he had done. I know you've worked with him before, Derek, but I hadn't heard much of his work. So this was the perfect opportunity, I thought, to collaborate with Wynton and really get inside of his language and vocabulary. And I love the fact that, and he'll talk more about this, so I don't want to say too much, but how he incorporates all of these influences that I associated with him early on when I met him. And I know he's had many influences over the years, that he's developed a lot, but just to hear some of these references, I thought was just extraordinary.
Wynton, what about you? I mean, and I imagine it's the same kind of parallel.
Okay, could you repeat what you said? You were muted for a little bit.
Sorry?
Could you repeat what you said? You were muted for a little bit.
Oh, okay. I was muted. Yes. Wynton, you also knew Aaron from this point, and of course, I met you also through your family, through your dad, and working with Wynton Marsalis. And so I wanted to ask you about how did you approach writing for a player like Aaron, who is such a virtuoso on many different levels?
Well, for me, at first it just started with writing for the piano first. So I kind of had the main ideas, and then after kind of getting it down, because we had limited time to work together, I would send him the music, and then we would work it together. He would tell me what was comfortable for him, what wasn't comfortable, and how we would work out improv and things like that. I don't know if anybody realized that there were sections of improvisation, like very, very brief sections, but there were. And yeah, it was mainly a collaboration in that way, rather than just kind of write the piece and send the whole thing at the end.
Yeah, you have sections where there's a kind of walking bass, and then you have other sections where you're going into different styles, and then you have some sections just marked open improvisation. So you really need to be able to trust that a player can take that and move with it.
Yeah, definitely. Especially there tends to be a difference sometimes between like when there's free improv in a piece where everything is notated. And when I tend to do things like that, I don't know how it happens, but it's happened most times that you can't really tell the difference. The lines are kind of blurred between what's improv and what isn't. I guess I try to write in an improvisational way.
Well, you wrote a fairly extensive piece for Sean Jones as an improviser, where you were also walking that line between notated music and allowing the players to have that freedom to just blow over it. And so how is that as a composer? Where do you find that line? Where do you allow yourself the freedom to do that? And what do you think are the resources on which you're drawing from your own past as a performer to do that?
For me, it tends to be way more intuitive than one would think, because like I have an idea of what the music sounds like in my head already, and it's a really meticulous process to get that out and then get it in the rhythms exactly how it would sound if it were improvised. Like I tend to write out rhythms in a way that when you look at them, they seem difficult. I guess like someone like Michael Finney is a reference for me, but I kind of tend to use those rhythms to write intuitive shapes. So if like you're a musician and you're playing them, you can realize, oh, this is what this shape is supposed to be. And it kind of approximates what a pianist would be playing if they were like playing with more freedom.
That's interesting. So you made reference to the British composer Michael Finney, and you studied at the Royal College before you came to LinkedIn. How's that been for you being, and now I know you're studying musicology, so there's a lot of things to ask you because you have a lot of different sides to you as a writer, as a performer, as a composer. But how does it feel being over there, being an American and working in Europe, and what have been the interesting inspirations and tensions for you?
The main tensions have just been trying to navigate education systems between three different places. Like the UK, the US, and Portugal are very, very different models in terms of like that. And another one, I guess, especially with music, it's weird that no matter how far away if I get from the US, it always seems to come back to me. Like in the Royal College of Music, a lot of the like formative things that I had were about American composers that I had known about, while living in the US, but never really studied in such depth. Trying to think of kind of more eclectic composers. One of my teachers at the Royal College of Music was really big into eclectic, kind of lone wolf American composers.
Yeah. And Aaron, you yourself as a composer, as a performer, have worked with such a variety of people. Your piano teachers ranging from Ken Barron and Eric Reed to Yablonskaya at Juilliard, and then working with Cecil McLaurin-Salvant and Benny Golson and Wycliffe Gordon, so many interesting musicians, Wynton Marsalis, of course, playing Ellington, playing Mary Lou Williams, being a pilot, a licensed pilot. Does that come into your music?
I don't know. I think the flying, I don't know how much really comes into my music. I think maybe it's the other way around. But I will say that the big influence that I also wanted to mention, because this was posted in the comments, is Marcus Roberts. And I think this is for both of us, right, Wynton? The pianist Marcus Roberts. And this piece is named after Marcus Roberts. His nickname is the J Master. And so that's where you get jaywalking. And so I think, well, at least in my experience with Marcus, I mean, he's always taught, first and foremost, he's always taught the importance of the piano and how vast the repertoire is and the approaches that you can have to the instrument. You have 500 years, well, maybe not 5, that's keyboard instruments, but roughly about 250 years of music specifically for the piano. So he's always approached it like, okay, well, we have a certain thing that we're trying to deal with in the 20th century in American music and in jazz. But the fact of the matter, this instrument has such a long history and so much repertoire. You have to also know what that's about if you're going to engage with everything else. And so That's been very important to me. I mean, understanding that, you know, the piano is a formidable opponent, and you're really not going to. I don't think anybody's really going to be able to outplay it. You know, you can try to be a master at it, but it's really, there's always something that you can learn in the piano repertoire. So another influence that I heard immediately when I first got hold of this piece was Jackie Byard. And I don't know how many people out there are familiar with Jackie Byard, but he was a very versatile pianist. He played with Charles Mingus, Eric Dolphy. I mean, the list goes on, and he was quite a great piano soloist. But his influences were just so vast. And I think, I can't remember which tune it was, Wynton, but you said that the middle of the piece that you wrote had a reference to
ATFW.
ATFW.
Yeah, Art Tatum, Fats Waller.
So I just like the fact that Wynton in his composition, you know, just uses so many influences. He's not, you know, sort of bound by any sort of dogma or canon of how things should be. He takes everything that he knows and he utilizes it to his advantage. So it was a challenge to play this piece and learn it, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I noticed that comment came from none other than Christian McBride. So we've got, we even have some commenters who are at the highest level of musicianship here. So Wynton, what are you doing now that you're there? You're working on musicology. You're writing.
Well, yeah. Well, now it's my summer. I'm actually studying history, but I'm still working with music. But yeah, right now it's the middle of the summer, so this is where I can have a lot more time to write. I can now practice because I just recently got a keyboard, and studies will resume in a few weeks.
Okay, so you don't really want to talk about that right now.
It's a bit of a tangent because it's very dense.
Right.
On a like very quickly, it's about trap music. That's what I can say.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But aside from that, I'm also in a rock band here, and we just put out a single like a few weeks ago. I'm working on short films with a friend that I have here as well, and we also have a showing of that this week. And I've been back to playing way more.
Oh, fantastic. I'm glad to hear that, because I remember you were a terrific pianist when I met you when you were in high school, and you were composing then, but very different kind of music. So I love seeing all these styles coming into your music. And people are writing in from Columbus, Ohio, and from Delaware, and from Brooklyn, and I think from Portugal. One person said James P. Johnson meets Ravel / Debussy. And and also one of your friends said that it was sick, the composition. I'm sorry to say. So no, I think that was a compliment. So Aaron, what's coming up for you next?
What's coming up for anybody? Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting time indeed. I mean, right now I haven't really been doing that much of the live streaming thing. I did one other than this one. I did one recently with Dan Tepfer. I don't know if you're familiar with Dan.
Oh yeah.
But he's really into the whole live streaming thing, and he actually utilizes Jack Trip, which where you can play live in real time with another person using low latency, and it's a whole process of setting the whole thing up. But I did one of those with Dan, and it was very rewarding. I was quite impressed with what he's been doing with that. But other than that, not too many live streams. There may be some possible live performances coming up, but I don't want to jinx it, so I'm not going to mention anything about it, but next month I may have a few actual live performances in a social distance setting. But in the meantime, yeah, I've been actually doing a lot of flying. I'm working right now on my multi-engine rating. I got my what's called a commercial pilot's license last month, and now I'm getting my multi-engine rating. So I've been doing a lot of flying lately.
Wow. Well, we'll have to hear about that in a future episode. But Wynton, tell us about Marcus Roberts. Tell us about your relation to him. Both. I mean, obviously, you also know him personally a little bit,
Yeah.
at least. Yeah. So talk about that.
Well, he was like the first person I heard when I was a kid that really blew my mind. I remember like just going through my dad's record, like my dad's CD collection, and finding his album on Scott Joplin album. And I just listened to that every single night when I was like 7, 8 years old. And that's what motivated me to want to play that music. Because then I found out that like there was actual music written out for it. So I spent a lot of time asking my piano teacher to help me learn like The Entertainer and Maple Leaf Rag and Bethina. And I ended up meeting him not too long after that. And he's been a very close mentor to me. He's been very hands-on with helping me develop as a pianist, especially keeping a dialogue with my teacher. And in hindsight, it's great. But when you're like 11 years old or so, and then both of your teachers get together to tell you why, to discuss what you could be doing better, that's not always fun at the time. But he's definitely someone that's always in the back of my mind when I'm writing, when I'm playing. Just it's something that's like deeply a part of the way that I think intuitively. And I guess Aaron can definitely tell from that bass line in the beginning.
Absolutely, and in fact, I spoke to Marcus, and I didn't mention this to you, and last night we were on the phone for 2 hours, and I've known Marcus for almost 20 years now. And anytime we talk, it's initially like, oh, we're going to talk for a second, and then it ends up being 2 or 3 hours. And he's always very generous with his time. He's very serious about music. One of the things we even talked about last night was the importance of just intergenerational collaboration. And Wynton is, how old are you now, Wynton?
27.
27. So he's a little younger than me. I'm 34 now, and just the importance of collaborating with people who are older, the masters, people who are younger, and just having that sort of dialogue constantly, so we can all learn from each other and support each other. I think that's something that he's always been always preached, through the time I've known him.
Yeah, well, that's obviously something as some of my teachers have passed on. It's something that you really treasure, and I hope that you're saving up some of the great things that Marcus Roberts and other mentors have told you both, so you can write them down, and so I'm sure you'll be passing them on to people too. Was there a narrative in this, Wynton? It also felt like it had almost like a narrative component to the piece.
Not consciously. Like the way that I started thinking about the piece initially was just looking up like how Jelly Roll Morton wrote his pieces, and I found that Jelly Roll Morton wrote in like a 3-strand like form, and so like that's kind of how a lot of ragtime is written. So like the idea was to break it up into 3 different parts, but then as I started writing it, it's like the middle part grew way longer than I thought it would, and then it became more of an intuitive process.
I loved hearing when it broke out and into a kind of a stride, and maybe that was Art Tatum suddenly busting into the scene as you described. But I have to say that the comment section here is very erudite, and I mean I'm very impressed. I just saw Carl Allen check in and send you both his greetings. So you have some incredible musicians who are listening. So, do you think this might be the first of a larger project that you two do together?
Well, I definitely, I hope this is the first of a number of collaborations we do. I think it's just beautiful to see and witness Wynton's development over the years. And then, me taking a look at the music when he told me he's going to send the music. I said, okay, I said, oh, this will probably take a few hours to get together. And I looked at it. I said, oh my goodness. I said, I'm gonna need a week to get this together. But just the breadth and scope of his music, and I'm really looking forward to doing something else and just digging deeper into what he discovers in his musical journey.
Yeah, it's definitely rare to work with someone with the talents that Aaron has, to be such a great improviser and to be such a great pianist. He feels like he can play anything.
Well, I mean, I agree that both of you, I think this is why when Aaron mentioned your name, I just said yes, because, you both have such a wide world of influences and skills. So thank you both so much for doing this. And I wanted you to see that I'm wearing my Lisbon trolley shirt here, Wynton.
Muito fixe.
Right. Oh, obrigado. So yes, in any case, it's great to have you both with us. And I really appreciate what you said about intergenerational learning, because I think the American Composers Orchestra is really an example of that, of people passing down that knowledge, players passing down that knowledge over many years to players in the next generation. So I really hope there'll be a part 2 of this collaboration. And thank you both so much for joining us today. And I just want to tell the audience, thank you, and thank you for helping us keep art alive during this time. Next week, we're featuring flute divas Susan Palmer-Needell and Laura Conwesser, actually both ACO musicians, who are going to be performing a new work by composer Amina Figueroa. And for more information about the upcoming schedule of Connecting ACO Community, please go to our website, and you can watch this again, this exact show that you just saw now. If you want to hear it again, you want to hear Jaywalking again, you can watch it on Music on the Rebound and on ACO's YouTube channel. So thanks to Aaron, thanks to Wynton, and thanks so much to our audience for tuning in. And we'll see you again next week, I hope.
Thank you, Derek. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.